It's that time of year for gift cards and great deals. We've looked to the latest Microsoft Store sale to find the best bang for your Xbox buck. Just remember to observe our handy on-screen details as each discount ends on its own date. In case you missed it, one of the best survival horror games as well as the best modern remakes has finally come to Xbox. If you've somehow never played or heard of Silent Hill, these games are far less about scary monsters and instead focus on the internal guilt of their protagonists. There's just one note worth mentioning: it's been reported the Xbox Series S has some inconsistent performance, so mark this one down for Xbox Series X only. One of the best games of 2025 is all about the objectively terrible past. Seriously, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will have you slogging through mud wearing heavy and conflicting armor and swinging rusty weapons against equally haggard opponents. Certainly a less than ideal life, but a heck of a lot of fun from the comfort of your controller. It's actually comical how well the rustic tools have been rendered in this modern technology for our entertainment. Looks like another sloppy battle in the rain. Better order yourself a pizza. Psychonauts 2 is one of those rare legendary sequels that happens to thread the needle so well it's almost taken for granted. Over a decade and a half of delays, poor sales, and crowdfunding, Double Fine finally released Part 2 of their famous platformer. The results were a pitch-perfect follow-up that nailed the humor and offbeat mechanics fans had been pining for. It embraces all of its story, even from its often-forgotten VR spin-off, but its exposition is so well done, newcomers will laugh along as well. Are you ready for some football? Well, there's no shortage of it as we prepare for the professional postseason. But in a real throwback, Electronic Arts has brought back the celebrated college football franchise to strong reviews and fan reaction. And true to its history, there's a consistent debate on which is the better game year to year, Madden or college football. Well, why not join the discussion with a hefty 50% off? Look, this MK11 and Injustice 2 bundle happens pretty often, but we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't remind gamers just how insane this deal is. If you're overwhelmed by references to different released versions, we'll make it clear. This one has all the characters and cool stuff that actually impacts gameplay. Two of the very best fighting games and really two of the best ensemble stories in gaming, on top of being highly technical and beginner-friendly entries. For $10, that's an easy choice. It's easy to call games timeless, but actually going back and playing early HD games can be a shocking reminder of how far the medium has evolved. But then there's the Batman Arkham Collection, 3 games that didn't so much follow trends but invent them whole cloth. The third-person in-game cutscenes, the unique rhythm combat, the deep reverence to the source material with revered writers and creators contributing. Eventually, the industry moved on from attempting to rip off Arkham because nothing even came close. You've heard of Island Time, right? Well, how about Blizzard Time? Winter means sometimes staying in because the weather has decided to shut down all possible movement. Well, for $40, you can travel the world and throughout time in the Assassin's Creed Legendary Collection. Personally speaking, I love this lineup of modern open-world, classic post-trilogy entries, and a few underrated games that have aged fantastic. 6 titles, hundreds of hours of gameplay. Let it snow. We are barreling towards the release of Resident Evil Requiem. The latest entry in this storied franchise will be returning to its most famous location, Raccoon City. What happened here? Well, a lot. Why not find out for yourself, one biological monstrosity after another? And there's no need to dust off decades-old consoles. These slick and modern remakes put players right into the fully rendered areas where pre-rendered backgrounds once stood. And you get the celebrated Resident Evil 4 remake? Now that's a bargain. South Park's latest season has come to a close, or maybe not the season, but the current contractually required amount of episodes. It's not always easy as a fan to keep up with when the series stops or starts, but the South Park video game collection will give you 2 totally complete stories that feel cut right from the TV show, with the added advantage of being surprisingly complex role-playing games. We'd get into the details of who and what you'd be fighting, but we're trying not to get this video age-restricted. Attempting to survive the effects of World War III has never been cheaper. The Metro Saga bundle gets you the modern versions of 2033 and Last Light, as well as Exodus and its 2 DLC expansions. If you're a fan of other post-apocalyptic games like Fallout but want a lot less irony and more stoic introspection, Metro is a must-play. Each entry does a great job of expressing just how awful it would be to live in this world while making it compelling and fun. Remember how we were talking about everyone giving Arkham's combat a try? Well, one of the best in-house attempts at WB games came from Monolith Productions, replacing fists with brutal sword combat, but the best part has to be the still cutting-edge Nemesis system, where every battle creates a ripple effect and randomly generated oak armies. It makes every interaction matter without the need for pre-rendered cutscenes or written stories, making it one of the most uniquely replayable games ever, even if you aren't a fan of Lord of the Rings. Dead Island is all about finding the biggest cuts to your shambling enemies, and in that spirit, we've got Part 2's Ultimate Edition slashed by 75%. You'll be given countless opportunities to destroy zombies in any number of creative and effective ways. It's not about merely swinging a sword, it's about finding any number of dangerous attachments to create gruesomely humorous outcomes. Is there really any need to go that hard? Well, sometimes it's all about the passion. One of the very best Metroidvanias of the past few years tilts heavily towards intense combat, and somehow it's still connected to the Prince of Persia? It's true! If you only know this series for its classic 3D entries or formative 2D adventure games, you'll find a refreshing twist to the formula here. Not only will you be exploring the environments while unlocking new abilities to access new areas, you'll be doing so in that familiar parkour sword combat. And if you know nothing about the Prince, don't worry, this one stands firmly in its own wall-running boots. Earlier this year, we saw the release of Mafia: The Old Country, a constrained open-world game that disappointed some players for the lack of freedom. While Hangar 13's Mafia 3 might be closer to what you were looking for, this game contains some of the snuggest third-person shooting of any open-world game and tackles the chaotic history of the 1960s. Plus, this version includes multiple expansions that really support the core narrative. $6 to go back 60 years? What a steal! If you somehow didn't get the memo, Street Fighter VI might be the best game in this series in decades. You'll get a returning cast featuring some of the most iconic characters in all of pop culture, as well as some newcomers who fit right in. And even if you're the scrubbiest scrub who ever did scrub, Capcom added the nuclear option of modern controls, giving everyone fireballs at the press of a button. And for only $20, it's a double KO perfect hold the cheese. Sonic Colors is smack dab in the nostalgia of Sonic fans. Not quite a 3D game, not quite an old school 2D adventure, this hedgehog followed its own path in 2010, creating a unique fandom. For only $12, you can travel back to the days of Nintendo Wii, except now it's been lovingly recrafted for modern HD consoles, without losing that distinct graphical style of the era. An easy breezy playing platformer and a comfort game for many. Alright, when Cyberpunk 2077 launched on Xbox, you'd be forgiven for writing it off as another overhyped mess. And that was because it was, in fact, another overhyped mess. But patch after patch has made these console ports into one of the very best games around. We're talking a fully immersive open world in a futuristic society and world-class actors dropping in regularly. Oh yeah, and it's from CD Projekt Red, the Witcher guys, so every side mission is exceptionally well written. There was a time when you could ignore Cyberpunk 2077. That time has passed. If you need a game to play with one other friend, you can't do much better than Split Fiction. In fact, if your buddy is online only, you're in luck, as the developers have released a friend pass, meaning if one person doesn't own Split Fiction, they can still join in the fun. The game itself is a rather meta look at what it means to tell stories, but all you need to know is you'll be experiencing some of the finest co-op scenarios. Action games usually get that title for having quick hit design and expressive combat, but Devil May Cry graduated to an entirely different level years ago. And Part 5 jumped right back into that stylistic character gameplay. You'll be crushing demons with bullets and swords with transcendent pizzazz. It's not just that it's fast, it's not just that it's complex, it's that somehow accessible and legible with buttery smooth frame rates and combos. Welcome back, Dante. Rustler answers a very basic but original question. What if those early Grand Theft Auto games were made about the Middle Ages? Now that's targeting a very specific and narrow audience, myself included, but for only $3 you can check into this bizarre mashup of humor, history, and old school gameplay. It might not have all the grand production of a modern Rockstar game, but it captures the classic spirit. Squirrel with a Gun is a testament to transparency in titles. As you would expect, you are a squirrel with a gun, a genuinely ridiculous concept. Well, hang on, because it's only going to get weirder as you shoot it out to collect acorns? Well, I suppose that's the most natural thing a squirrel with a gun could fight over, but still. For $9 you can flip off your brain and kick up your funny bone, one bullet at a time. There's simply no way to recommend this War of Mine the Little Ones without giving a little bit of a disclaimer. People often come to video games to enjoy themselves with some fun, and The Little Ones is an engaging experience, but the subject matter will leave a mark, which is children attempting to survive a war zone. Maybe the most difficult part, the kids are still acting like your average goofballs, just trying to have fun. This one will leave you thinking. Trials Fusion is now 11 years old, which is rather remarkable given just how pitch-perfect it still plays today. You are on a motorbike and you must reach the finish line. That's all. See how simple is that? Well, you'll crash often, all the time in bone-breaking fashion, attempting to find the right mastery of momentum 5 times, 10 times, 30 times. Can anything that repetitive really be fun? Absolutely. It's a magically charming, brutal challenge. One of the very best racers of the year is yet another Sonic racing game. Yes, we've all had our fun asking the question why the fastest thing alive would need a car, but then you just see how fun the whole experience is, and who cares about logic? Sonic Racing Cross Worlds only launched in September, and you can already grab it for less than $50, but you'll want to hurry because this deal is gonna go fast, I'm sorry. Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD is a game title that's impossible to say without a smile. Go ahead, give it a try. But it's also a great representation to the infectious joy of the Monkey Ball franchise. Now, truthfully, it's a bit of a challenge game not unlike Trials Fusion, demanding players master their use of physics to guide the track, not the monkey. It's a timeless style of gameplay that's a hit with players of all ages. Let me tell you why I like Riders Republic. It lets you do things wrong. Yeah, most extreme sports games are pretty much on the rails, pun intended, but Riders Republic, by all means, take your snowboard wherever you want to, or better yet, let's ride some bikes in 5 feet of snow. And that's because the developers know the real enjoyment comes from goofing off before getting serious about an objective. $4 for one heck of a chill sports game. Man, we got a lot of Sonic on sale this week, huh? Well, to the Blue Boys' credit, each of the games are completely different. Sonic Frontiers gives players a much more open experience. Now, this really needs to be underlined. It's not an open-world game, but you'll be able to explore larger areas in one of the most unique entries of the whole series. This hedgehog is so zippy, he's hopping from fan favorite to fan favorite. You've probably heard there's a new LEGO Batman coming, but if you're a fan of the classic trilogy, that's going to be a bit of a mixed blessing. It appears this future release will be something entirely different to the classic break-em-all LEGO formula with dozens upon dozens of playable characters. But the good news? You can scoop up that old-school design with Part 3 for less than the price of a cheap LEGO set. Take it from me, if you're looking for a good story in games, you want to play Judgment. This isn't quite a spin-off of Yakuza or Like a Dragon, though it does share environments and developers. But the story is a totally original tale about a former lawyer still living in the shadow of his famed murder acquittal who immediately went off to kill again. Now he's a hard-fighting private eye. How's that for an elevator pitch? For those of you like myself who bought their Xbox Series X on launch day back in 2020, Yakuza Like a Dragon was somewhat of a killer app before it eventually came to other platforms. And if you've held off, you're missing out on one of the most shocking twists to a series ever. Like a Dragon is a continuation, but now with a new protagonist and even turn-based combat, on top of those famous signature RGG minigames. Speaking of games that are designed to their developers' own preferences, there's Dragon's Dogma 2. What sort of RPG is this? Weird. Very, very weird. In fact, some players complained about this large world's lack of fast travel, a criticism that sounds valid until you experience the intentionally slower pace peppered with intense battles of melee and magic. You want a hero's journey? Well, Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to give you every single step. Again, here's a game that always goes on sale, but I feel like we need to check in. Have you played The Witcher 3 yet? Don't worry about the first 2 games really, because this one on its own, with all of its DLC and side missions and main story, will easily clear north of 150, 160, 180 or more hours depending on how much you want to see. And considering this is some of the best writing in games, you're gonna want to see it all. $10. What are you waiting for, Witcher? Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, but how about chat back about what games you plan to pick up and what you recommend? Keep clicking around here at GameRant.com, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everybody.